welcome into Coach Craig's Sports. This is the XFL DFS Week 9 video. So this will be me going over a recap of Week 8, kind of going through percentage of snaps, percentage of pass attempts, percentage of carries, target share, all that good stuff. And then talking about the picks for this week. So kind of condensing it all into one video since USFL does start this week as well. Check out my video yesterday for the USFL team preview plus first look. And then we'll be doing some USFL DFS picks tomorrow for a stream as well. But without further ado, we'll get into it with the recap of Week 8 for XFL. So we're going to start off with the Arlington Renegades. Luis Perez came in at quarterback. He played 100% of the snaps. He had 100% of the pass attempts. Their offense still wasn't that great overall, if we're being completely honest. Davion Smith and Letty Brown split running back snaps once again, 55% of snaps for Davion Smith, 47 for Letty Brown. Smith had 54% of the carries, 13 total carries with 1 touchdown. Only 1 target out of the backfield, which I believe was his lowest of the season, so a 4% target share there. And then Letty Brown, 47% of snaps, 37.5% of the total carries, 9 total carries. He had 3 targets out of the backfield for a 12% target share. Didn't do too much with those overall, though. Was kind of important to note that Smith did get banged up a little bit in the beginning of the game, but seems to be fine since then. At wide receiver, they're still splitting these guys like crazy. It seems like Tyler Vaughns was up to 47% of snaps this past week, 16% target share with 4 total targets. Play exclusively on the outside once again. Lawan Winningham, 45% of the snaps. He had a 20% target share with 5 targets this week, which I think is his highest of the season. So he played exclusively on the outside once again. Kind of interesting just to see here who obviously Luis Perez is going to target at quarterback. Brandon Arconado, who supposedly works out with Luis Perez in the offseason, had 6 targets for a 24% target share, 72% of snaps, played exclusively in the slot. Was a big beneficiary for Victor Bolden not playing last week. So see if he continues his chemistry with Luis Perez. He could be an interesting option this week. Nell Hall's 55% of snaps, 4% target share with only 1 target. He played mainly on the outside. He had 1 slot snap as well. As I already mentioned, Victor Bolden did not play in Week 8. He missed due to, I believe it was a shoulder injury. So that is something to note. We'll see if he plays in Week 9 or not. Caleb Van Den Esch, he only played 1 snap. He drew 1 target. His snap did come on the outside. Sounds like he's dealing with a concussion at this point in time, so we'll see if he plays or not this week. It was listed as a head injury down on the injury report for this week, so I assume it's a concussion at this point in time. Then we had Javonte Payton play 38% of his snaps. Then he had a 12% target share with 3 targets, played exclusively on the outside again. So obviously the biggest takeaway here, these wide receivers still splitting a lot of snaps there. So Arconado actually led the team in snaps. We'll see if that remains the case with Bolden back, if he is back in Week 9. But Arconado and Perez do have that chemistry already. The big one here was Sal Cannell only played 51% of snaps. He did not receive a single target in this game with Luis Perez at quarterback. So that is something to monitor moving forward. Most recent, the 2 most recent weeks, we saw a big uptick in snaps for Nate Becker, 57% of snaps. He had 1 target for a 4% target share. And then Sean Byer played 26% of snaps, but did not have a target once again. Moving down to the defenders, Jordan Teamu played 86% of snaps, 14% of snaps for Derek King. 93 of the pass attempts did go to Jordan Teamu. He had 26 total pass attempts, 4 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. So he has been really, really good the last 3-4 weeks. So definitely a guy that we're going to consider playing once again. Pretty strong performances, obviously, once again. 7% of the pass attempts for Derek King to only 2 total. He didn't complete a single pass in this game, though. 8 carries for Jordan Teamu, 3 for Derek King. So 23% of the carries for Jordan Teamu, 9% for Derek King. Abram Smith, still leading the backfield. 72% of snaps, 49% of the carries, 17 total carries, 1 rushing touchdown, had 1 target out of the backfield for a 4% target share. And then Raquel Armstead, 26% of the snaps, 20% of the carries, 7 total carries, 1 target out of the backfield, which he did catch for a touchdown for a 4% target share. I will note too, Jordan Teamu attempted 26 passes. For the target shares, I only included 25 because one, it looks like it was a deflection and he caught the pass himself for -2 yards. So I'm not counting that one technically towards his pass attempts for the target share at least. Puka Williams, who came back to the team, he played 1% of snaps, didn't have a single carrier or target, but his one snap did come out of the slot this most recent week. Then we move down to the wide receiver position. Chris Blair, 71% of snaps, 26% target share, 8 total targets, 1 touchdown. Really split between the outside and the slot this week, 26 on the outside, 27 on the slot. Josh Hammond only played 40% of the snaps, 19% target share with 5 targets, still was primarily out of the slot once again, as per usual. Lucky Jackson, 88% of the snaps, 19% target share with 5 targets, 57 snaps on the outside, 9 in the slot. So moving around just a little bit more than in other weeks. And then we had Jazz Ferguson and DeQuizes are both inactive in week number 8. Brandon Smith had his highest snaps of the season, 49%. He had a 15% target share with 4 targets. He did catch a touchdown in this game as well. He played 36 snaps on the outside, 2 in the slot. So primarily on the outside once again. Then as we move down to the tight end position, we have Ethan Wolf, who played 49% of snaps. He had 2 targets for a 7% target share. Brilly Moore, 60% of snaps, a 4% target share with only 1 target. Trey Berry did not play a single snap once again. And then Alex Ellis, 45% of snaps, 1 target for a 4% target share and 1 touchdown as well. So not too much that we can really take away from this DC team. Josh Hammond's obviously a vital play. Guy that really haven't been playing very much either way because his price tag is just too high for the amount of production he has. Chris Blair is going to look like a pretty good option once again. He's been one of the best receivers in the XFL as of late. Moving down to the Houston Roughnecks, we saw 92% of the snaps for Brandon Silvers, 8% of the snaps for Colton McDonald. 100% of the pass attempts did go to Brandon Silvers. Cole McDonald did not have a single pass attempt or rush attempt in this game, so that's kind of interesting there. Brandon Silvers coming back from the elbow injury. Didn't look the greatest, though, honestly. At running back, Max Borghi, 49% of the snaps. He had 54% of the carries, 7 total carries. He had 4 targets out of the backfield for 11% target share. So he's still kind of lead running back there. Really hasn't done too much as of late, though, in terms of production. Then we have Bryson Aline, 31% of the snaps, 31% of the carries with 4 total carries, 2 targets out of the backfield for a 6% target share. And DeJuan Lee is kind of that extra running back there. 5% of snaps, 8% of the carries with 1 carry, and 2 targets out of the backfield for a 6% target share. And he's a guy that's on the injury list this week with a shoulder injury. They brought in Jeremy Cox at running back as well this week. They cut Jacory Roberson, so that is something to note. We'll talk a little bit more about that when we get over to my XFL sheet for week number 9. But then we move down to wide receiver. Deontay Burnett played 98% of the snaps, 17% target share, 6 targets, 1 touchdown, played exclusively on the outside once again. Justin Smith, 90% of snaps, 11% target share with 4 targets, played exclusively on the outside again. Michael Bandy was up to 61% of the snaps. He had a 25% target share with 9 total targets, so he's going to be very involved in this offense probably moving forward. Played exclusively out of the slot. The main guy, or the guy that probably took the biggest dip, was Cedric Byrd from Michael Bandy's snaps. Cedric Byrd, 62% of the snaps, only a 6% target share with 2 targets. He played exclusively out of the slot once again. And then Travell Harris, 75% of snaps, 14% target share with 5 total targets, and he played exclusively out of the slot as well. Ben Putnam was inactive in week number 8. Tavon Salter played a couple of snaps on the outside for 11% of the snaps. He did get 1 target as well. And then Jacory Roberson didn't play at all, and he was cut this week, which was kind of a surprise since he was a very talented player in college. Garrett Owens, 11% of snaps. He did draw a target and catch a touchdown for a 3% target share, which is pretty much the only thing he's done so far this year. So not too much that we really need to talk about here with Houston. Obviously, probably the biggest difference is going to be Michael Bandy getting his uptick in snaps, and he's going to be probably pretty effective and a bigger piece of this offense moving forward. Moving down to the Orlando Guardians, Quentin Dormady, 98% of the pass attempts. He had 42 in total. 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. He played 99% of the snaps. He had 31% of the carries, 5 total carries with 1 touchdown. DeAndre Francois was the backup quarterback for this game. He didn't have a single pass attempt or carry, but he did play 1 snap, which he flipped the ball to Eli Rogers, and he attempted to pass. So they didn't want Quentin Dormady in there on the trick play for whatever reason, but that's just kind of what we had at that point in time. Jermaine Martin was up to 47% of snaps in this game. 19% of the carries with only 3 total carries, didn't have a target out of the backfield. And then Devin Darrington, 42% of the snaps, 44% of the carries with 7 total carries, a 2% target share with only 1 target out of the backfield. So they're really not running the ball too much at this point in time. A lot of pass happy situations for Orlando. And then obviously Quentin Normandy really throwing the ball around and everything else like that too as well. Dedrick Thomas played 19% of snaps, a 2% target share with one target, 6% carry share with only one carry. Played one snap in the backfield, 5 out wide, and 8 in the slot. So probably the least amount that he's been in the backfield so far this season, but obviously he could have lined up in the backfield, motion out wide, and everything else like that too as well. When we move down to wide receiver, we had Charleston Rambo play 96% of the snaps, 14% target share with 6 targets. 58 of his snaps came on the outsides, 11 came in the slot. Kind of just the same player we expect at this point in time. If you get a touchdown out of him, you'll be happy, but if you don't, you're probably not going to be too happy with him on a week-to-week basis. Cody Lattimore, 64% of snaps, 21% target share with 9 targets, so he was way up there once again. Still playing in line and in the slot. And then we had Eli Rogers, who had the big game, 72% of snaps, pretty much in line with what he's played all season. A 29% target share, though, with 12 total targets and a touchdown. So he was very, very involved last week, so it could be a pretty good option once again this week, although his price tag has gone up quite a bit. And then he did have that one pass attempt on the trick play as well. KD Cannon, who was kind of my sleeper for this week, since he played so many snaps the first week with the team, only played 15% of snaps in week number 2 for him. 10% target share with 4 targets, played pretty much on the outside with 10 on the outside, 1 in the slot. Dan Williams played 71% of snaps. He had a 10% target share with 4 targets as well, and primarily played on the outside once again. At tight end, Jalen Smith was inactive for week number 8. Logan Carter, 36% of snaps, a 5% target share with 2 targets. Ryan Becker, 21% of snaps, a 0% target share once again. And then we had Jordan Thomas with 17% of snaps, a 7% target share with 3 targets as well. So kind of mixing and matching these tight ends once again. I do apologize here, kind of pausing here and there. Do feel a sneeze coming on, but not sure when that's going to come, but when it does come, I do apologize for that. But moving down with Orlando, really not too much to change here this week overall. Maybe we don't take a shot on KD Cannon, but if you're like 50 max and 150 max or something like that, maybe you want to mix in a couple shares once again. And then I got to update this for Jack Cohen. So for the San Antonio Brahmas, Jack Cohen took 100% of the pass attempts, 31 in total, 0 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. He played 99% of the snaps. He had 8% of the carries with 2 total carries. Jawan passed the other quarterback, 0% of the pass attempts. He played 1 snap and had a carry on that snap for 4% carry share. And then we move down to running back, Jacquez Patrick, 68% of snaps, 64% of carries with 16 total carries. He did have a rushing touchdown once again, and a 13% target share with 5 total targets. He's going to be very involved and probably a cash game option once again this week. And then John Hillman behind him, 35% of snaps, 24% of the carries with 6 total carries, and a 13% target share as well with 5 total targets. So he's kind of involved as that extra back there too as well. They're still trying to use a little bit of that 2 running back system overall. At wide receiver, we have TJ Vasher played 89% of the snaps, 11% target share with 4 total targets, primarily on the outside. Once again, 64 on the outside, 8 in the slot. Nick Holly, who recently signed with the team last week, he played 1% of snaps, 1 snap in total. He played his lone snap out of the slot. Landon Akers, 73% of the snaps, a 16% target share with 6 total targets. So he's pretty much up there once again. 53 snaps in the slot, 6 on the outside. And then Fred Brown, kind of the reverse of that, 79% of snaps, 16% target share. He had 6 targets as well. 52 of his snaps came on the outside, 12 are in the slot. That is the typo there. I will fix that after this stream as well. Travis Johnson was inactive for week number 8. Travis Tovin, 72% of snaps, a 5% target share with 2 targets. 20 of his snaps came on the outside. 2 of them came in the slot. And then we have Emmanuel Butler, 11% of snaps. No targets once again, 7 on the outside, 2 in the slot in terms of his snap alignment. But pretty much what we're seeing out of San Antonio, pretty similar situation. Jacquez Patrick's going to be the guy you want at running back. If you want to take a shot on like TJ Vasher or Fred Brown and hope it's the week they pan off, it's probably what it's going to be for San Antonio moving forward. Jack Cohen is banged up once again, so we could see another potential quarterback swap, whether it is Jawan Pass or Paxton Lynch for this week as well. So keep an eye out on that as we get closer to game time. Then we move down to the tight ends. Alze Mack played 78% of snaps, a 16% target share with 6 targets. Deion Yelder, 38% of snaps, 11% target share with 4 targets. So the tight ends were a little bit more involved this week as well. So if you really want to take a shot on one of them, you could probably do it as well. I'm going to get a drink of water here real quick, though. Moving down to Seattle Sea Dragons. Ben DiNucci played 100% of the snaps, had 100% of the pass attempts once again. Philip Lindsay recently signed with the team, obviously. 31% of the snaps, 62% of the carries. He had 8 total carries. He had a 5% target share with 2 targets. You know, he was the most involved running back, but still not the greatest running back at that point in time, too, as well. So he's going to be more of a GPP option probably once again. And then we have TJ Hammonds played 10% of snaps, 8% of carries, one carry, 5% target share with 2 targets as well out of the backfield. And then we have Darius Bradwell played 18% of snaps, didn't have a single carry or a target though. So kind of interesting there. Then we move down to Ja'Cory Pearson. Ja'Cory Pearson played 84% of the snaps despite having that, that nagging foot injury during the week. He was kind of limited a lot throughout the week. Practice in full the last day of the week as well. So he was pretty involved once again, though. He had 20% target share, 8 targets, 1 touchdown, played exclusively out of the slot once again. Blake Jackson here played 100% of the snaps, only a 10% target share with 4 targets, though, still playing exclusively out of the slot. And then Josh Gordon had his highest snap rate of this, not of the season, but as of, probably last 4 or 5 weeks with 65% of the snaps, 20% target share with 8 targets, played exclusively on the outside once again. Then Jawan Green, who was a guy that I was really, really high on last week, 68% of snaps, 25% target share, 10 targets. He did have 2 touchdowns as well. 25 of his snaps came in the slot, 17 on the outside. Jordan Vesey, 55% of the snaps, did not receive a single target, played exclusively out on the outside once again. Damian Willis played 53% of the snaps, exclusively on the outside, 12.5% target share with 5 total targets once again. So kind of picking the right guys on the outside once again is kind of a big factor for this team overall. But for the most part, we're looking at Blake Jackson, Ja'Cory Pearson, Jawan Green. If you want to mix and match Josh Gordon here and there, but that's kind of where we've been at so far, at least in recent weeks. Kelvin McKnight only played 3% of snaps, didn't have a single target, played exclusively out of the slot. And then Charlie Tamoa actually played 15% of snaps, had 1 target for a 2.5% target share overall. Moving down to the St. Louis Battlehawks, AJ McCarron wasn't active for week number 8. Nick Tiano took his place. He played 100% of the snaps. I listed him as 100% of the pass attempts just because they did have a fake punt pass as well, which I note here. There was 1 fake punt pass too, which ultimately ended up going for a touchdown. So if you want to count that for, pass attempts or target share, you can do that. I just did not for my purposes for, my notes and then my spreadsheet that I do have up on Patreon as well. At running back, Brian Hill played 80% of the snaps, 56% of the carries with 10 total carries. Nick Tiano was very involved in the ground. He ran for 51 yards. He was a pretty mobile quarterback at that as well. Mateo Durant, 3% of the snaps, 0% of the carries, a 3% target share with 1 total target. And then Kareem Walker played 8% of snaps, but did not have a carry or a target. He was kind of brought in a little bit here and there just to block on passing downs. From the wide receiver position, you see 3 guys here that played 68% or more of snaps. Darius Shepard, 93% of snaps and 18% target share with 6 total targets. 44 of his snaps on the outside, 10 came in the slot. Hakeem Butler, 98% of snaps, 15% target share, 5 targets. And he did get back to scoring a touchdown once again. 24 of his snaps came on the outside, 33 came in the slot. And then Austin Proel, once again, 83% of snaps, 18% target share for 6 targets, although it really didn't convert into too much. I think he had like 2 receptions for like 16 yards, primarily played out of the slot once again. And then Marcel Amen, the guy that I was pretty high on once again last week, kind of that he played so much in his return. He's still going to be a guy that I'm really high on this week as well. 68% of snaps, 18% target share with 6 total targets. 15 of the snaps came in the slot, 25 came on the outside. So he played 40 snaps in total. So that's pretty good considering he's coming back from the hamstring injury and everything else like that. He probably should have had the game-winning touchdown towards the end of the game, but he dropped the pass. So definitely a guy to look out for once again this week. And then we had Stephen Mitchell Jr. played 17% of the snaps, a 3% target share with 1 target, played 5 of his snaps in the slot, 5 on the outside. Gary Jennings played 5% of snaps, a 0% target share. He had 0 targets, but he did catch the fake punt pass for a touchdown as well. So, like I said, I didn't count that one towards the targets, but he did catch a pass for a touchdown on a fake punt pass. Played exclusively on the outside when he was in the game. George Campbell was inactive for week number 8. And then for the tight ends, you saw here Jake Sutherland played 17% of snaps, 0% target share with 0 targets. And Giovanni Haskins, 25% of snaps, 3% target share with 1 target. So they really didn't use the tight ends very much this week at all. Maybe, Hakeem Butler's like your big body guy that was a tight end convert at one point in time with the NFL. So we'll have to see how that looks going forward, especially if Nick Tiano gets the start once again this week. We'll monitor the status of AJ McCarron throughout the week. Obviously, we'll post up the inactives when they do come out for this weekend as well. But that's kind of what we got for the Battlehawks. We'll talk a little bit more about them when we get over to the week 9 kind of sheet for this week as well. Then we move down to the Vegas Vipers. Jalen McClendon played 100% of the snaps and 100% of the pass attempts. So once again, 32.5% of the carries with 13 total carries. So he was very involved in the ground once again. But otherwise, really didn't have that great of a game. But, his rushing upside does help his floor a little bit. But, if he's not throwing the ball well, it's going to be a little bit risky there as well. Rod Smith, 54% of the snaps, 32.5% of the carries with 13 total carries, a 13% target share with 3 targets in this most recent game as well. And then we had John Lovett, 17% of the snaps, 7.5% of the carries with 3 total carries, although he did have a rushing touchdown. He had 30 yards on his 3 carries, so he was pretty good there as well. Seems like they've just not liked using him quite as much as they probably should, given the production that he's put up. For whatever reason, they really love Rod Smith, but that is kind of something to talk about probably some other day. 4% target share with 1 target out of the backfield. And then Brian Burt played 25% of the snaps, had 22.5% of the carries with 9 total carries, 3 targets out of the backfield for a 13% target share. Then we get down to the wide receiver position. Jeff Badet, their leading wide receiver, who was inactive for week number 8. So that is something to monitor as this week goes along. He's been limited in practice the first 2 days with that thigh. They're listed as a thigh, but initially it was reported as a hamstring injury. Jeff Badet is a guy that has had a lot of soft tissue injuries in the past, so wouldn't be shocked if he misses once again this week. Martavius Bryant, 79% of the snaps. He had 3 targets for a 13% target share. Pretty much played it on the outside once again. Geronimo Allison played 99% of the snaps, a 13% target share. He had 3 targets in total, 1 receiving touchdown. He played 58 of his snaps on the outside, 12 in the slot. Sneak Sweeting, 39% of snaps. He had a 4% target share with 1 target. He did have 2 carries out of the backfield for a 5% carry share. 22 of his snaps came on the outside, only 5 in the slot in week number 8. And then Matthew Sexton was the big beneficiary, as I kind of pointed out that he would be in place of Jeff Badet. 78% of snaps, a 26% target share with 6 targets. 55 of his snaps came in the slot, only 1 on the outside. And then for the tight ends, not super involved this most recent week, but Brandon Dillon, 35% of snaps, a 0% target share. Cam Sutton, 32% of snaps, a 9% target share with 2 targets in total. Technically, he did have 1 pass attempt as well in this game. And then Sean Price, 35% of snaps, a 4% target share with only 1 target in total. And then Travis Kuntz, 21% of snaps and no targets. So that's kind of the recap for week number 8 in terms of everything, snaps, pass attempts, percentage of carries, percentage of or target share as well. And with that being said, too, if you guys are interested in runthesims.com, a projection, an optimizer, DIY, you doing it yourself, everything else like that, you can take some of these stats, plug and play them in there with the DIY, get your own projections, save that CSV file over, import it over to the classic optimizer and build your own lineups that way. Or if you just want to go with their projections that they already have, go from there with the classic optimizer and then kind of tinker from there. You can do that as well. But if you do that over there, use promo code coach at runthesims.com and you'll save 10%. Great resource for XFL, for USFL, DFS as well. So definitely be sure to check that out and use promo code coach over there to get the biggest benefit that you can do at this point in time. And then with that being said, I'm going to stop sharing that screen. We'll get over to the week number 9 DFS sheet. So let me get that one brought up here real quick. So we're going to go team by team once again. We start off with the Arlington Renegades. Quarterback position, not interested in anybody at this point in time. Luis Perez, I assume, is getting the start, but this offense just isn't too great overall. If you want to play Davian Smith in GPP, you could probably do it still at $8,400 this week. He's getting the touchdown equity, but not too much else there. Brandon Arconato is an interesting play at $4,200. Maybe a GPP contrarian option if you want to do it. Monitor the status of Victor Bolden as the week moves along. Like I said, Caleb Van Den Esch did not practice Wednesday due to a head injury, so we'll keep an eye out on that one, but not a major factor either way. Not too much else here that stands out, especially with Sal Cannella not being very involved and not playing as many snaps the most recent weeks. Renegades have a good defense, but they are going against DC this week. So, more of a contrarian option if you wanted to go there. For the DC defenders, Jordan Tiama, I think, could be considered a cash game option this week at $10,100. He's been very, very good the last 4 weeks, and, he's still getting the lion's share of the quarterback snaps. Derek King, got a little bit more last week, but still not anything that's majorly concerning. Abram Smith, GPP option at $10,600. If you really, really wanted to pay him in cash, you could do it as well, but not really quite there myself just because that large price tag. Chris Blair at $5,900. The way he's been playing, he's been one of the best XFL wide receivers in recent weeks. Definitely think you could consider him a cash game option. When we get down to Lucky Jackson, you could throw him in GPPs if you really want to. If you want like a super contrarian option, you could maybe try out Brandon Smith as well, or one of the tight ends, but kind of trying to keep it simple here with DC at this point in time. And then defenders defense at $4,700. You can consider them a cash game option against the Arlington Renegades, whose offense isn't the greatest. And, they usually give up pretty good defensive points from that perspective. Then we move down to Roughnecks. Brandon Silver should be a GPP option here as well at $8,700. Not the greatest game for him last week. If you really wanted to play him in cash, you probably could as well. Max Borghi mainly a contrarian play. Same thing with Bryson Aline. DeJuan Lee didn't practice Wednesday due to shoulder injury, so we'll see how that all plays out. They signed Jeremy Cox as an additional running back this week. They cut Jacory Roberson, who I thought could be like a potential option for them, but apparently not at this point in time. When we get down to their wide receivers, you can look at both the guys on the outside and Deontay Burnett at $9,700, Justin Smith at $4,600, mainly just GPP options. Same thing with Travell Harris at $4,200 or $7,400, excuse me. Michael Bandy's probably the most interesting one, $3,600 GPP paydown option, cash game filler if that's something you want to do as well. 25% target share last week. Definitely going to make him a pretty interesting option. Roughnecks defense, GPP option against Vegas. There could be some upside to be had there with a good defense going against, Jalen McClendon, a pretty inexperienced quarterback at that. A lot of the Vegas team is banged up at this point in time as well. Then let me get a drink of water here real quick. Then for the Guardians, we have Quentin Dormady, $10,600, getting up there quite a bit in price tag for him. Obviously, he's been able to put up points with this team. If you want to roll him out in GPPs, I would be okay with doing that. Not particularly interested in either running back at this point in time. They're just kind of mid-range plays. If you want to be super contrarian, you could throw them out there. And then at wide receiver, I think you could probably use Katie Cannon or Dan Williams as GPP pay down. Cody Lattimore is a GPP option at $9,000, but he did not practice Tuesday or Wednesday due to a knee injury. So we'll monitor that throughout the week. Eli Rogers, if you want to go there, $5,300, more of a GPP option at this point in time with that increased price tag. Tight ends, not super interested there. If you want to play the Guardians defense in GPP, you maybe could roll them out in cash as well against San Antonio offense. Not sure who's starting at quarterback for them this week. $3,800, definitely not a bad price tag whatsoever. And then moving down to San Antonio, I think we still need to get more of an injury report from them, but I believe Jack Cohn is banged up once again. I'll have to take another look at that. Otherwise, he really hasn't been the greatest either way, so not too interested in any of these quarterbacks at this point in time. If you want to use John Hillman as a pay down option at $3,100, you can do that. Jack Patrick is a cash game option at running back at $7,700 with the carries that he's getting, with the touches that he's getting out of the backfield for receiving wise as well. If you want to take a shot on like a Fred Brown, TJ Vasher, once again, as a GPP paydown option, that's something you can do. Not really too interested in anybody else from this passing tech, unless you want to take a contrarian option at one of the tight end options as well. Brahma's defense, you could use in like GPP against Orlando. They have been known to make some turnovers at times, so there is some upside to be had there. Then we move down to the Sea Dragons, who Ben DiNucci, GPP option, $12,200, just really getting up there in price tag. Philip Lindsay at running back, if you want to go there at GPP, option at $7,500, but I don't think you have to do it. It's still probably going to be a little bit too popular, just given his name as well. Mainly at wide receiver. Looking at Juwan Green, Blake Jackson, Ja'Cory Pearson, all kind of GPP options. Maybe Damian Willis is a GPP pay down option. Josh Gordon is a potential contrarian option just in general. Then their defense, maybe a GPP option against St. Louis, because St. Louis is either going to have Nick Tiana or AJ McCarron with a little bit of banged up shoulder this week. So we'll just keep an eye out on that one. Speaking of St. Louis, they're the next team up. Not really interested in AJ McCarron with a banged up shoulder. Nick Tiano maybe at $9,000, kind of contrarian option if you really want to go there if he ends up starting this week. Brian Hill, $10,400, really up there at price tag at this point in time. Still can throw him on GPPs. Hakeem Butler, same thing at $11,000. Not really a cash game option, but pretty interesting GPPs. Not really interested in Darius Shepard or Austin Perel this week. Kind of a pay down option in Marcel Aitman at $4,300. Maybe a cash game filler if you want to go there as well. This be my favorite target from the St. Louis team just in general. Like I mentioned, he did drop that touchdown late in the game last week. He was still very, very involved. So I do like that as well. Battlehawks defense is pretty good. They're $4,400 once again. You could use them as a GPP option against Seattle. Could go a lot of different ways there, but if DiNucci's making turnovers, it could end up all right. But if he's not, it's more just a contrarian option at this point in time, I would say, honestly. And then last but not least, we get down to the Vegas Vipers. Jalen McClendon at $9,400. If you want to roll him out in GPPs, you could do it with some of that rushing upside. If he gets multiple touchdowns, he'll be all right. Brian Bird is a GPP paydown option. It's pretty interesting since he was a little bit more involved last week. If you want to use John Lovett as a contrarian option, you could do it. Rod Smith did miss practice on Wednesday due to an illness, so we'll monitor that throughout the week as well. Geronimo Allison, I think, is an interesting GPP option, especially considering all the other injuries at wide receiver. So that would be somebody to look at. Jeff Badette, he's $10,200, limited Tuesday and Thursday due to this thigh or hamstring injury at this point in time. Probably not anybody that we're playing this week, especially given his history of soft tissue injuries in the past. Martavis Bryant did not practice Tuesday or Wednesday due to a neck injury now, so he might not even play this week. Matthew Sexton, I like him as a paydown option if he plays. He's limited Tuesday and Wednesday due to a thigh injury. Sneak Sweeting could be interesting if one of these guys ends up, or if like two of these guys are missing, like Jeff Badette and Martavis Bryant, or Jeff Badette and Matthew Sexton, or Martavis Bryant and Matthew Sexton. If two of those guys are out, could be pretty interesting overall. Saeed Blacknell's still around, but he didn't play at all last week, so not really worth mentioning. And then the tight end's not really too interesting getting there. Vipers defense against Houston, probably not getting there this week unless you want to be like super contrarian at this point in time. But that's kind of a quick little rundown in terms of recap from week number 8, going over my week 9 sheet. And if we want to go over to DraftKings, I'll kind of talk about some general theory for this week as well. So let me get DraftKings pulled up at this point in time. So just give me a minute here as I'm pulling this up. Stop sharing the screen. We'll go over DraftKings, share that screen. And then we'll just find ourselves in a nice little XFL main slate contest at this point in time. So we're going to click here. We'll just click enter. Doesn't really matter since this is an example, but I think this is going to be a pretty interesting week just in general for XFL DFS. So this will be my kind of general thoughts. Probably be about even on the field with Ben DiNucci. AJ McCarron probably not getting to it all this week. Either he's not playing or he's got that shoulder injury. A little bit of probably Quentin Dormady. If I'm playing Ben DiNucci, I'm stacking him with Juwan Green. I'm getting a little bit of Pearson. I'm getting a little bit of Blake Jackson, maybe a Damian Willis here and there, maybe a Josh Gordon here and there as well. Quentin Dormady, if I'm playing him, probably with Cody Lattimore if he ends up playing this week. A little bit of Eli Rogers, a little bit of Dan Williams, a little bit of KD Cannon just in general. Jordan Tam is going to probably be my most popular quarterback, be overweight on the field to him at $10,100. Going to be playing a lot of him and Chris Blair once again this week. Maybe a little bit of Jalen McClendon. If Jeff Badette's out, I'll put him a little bit with Matthew Sexton, a little bit with Geronimo Allison, assuming that Matthew Sexton does end up playing. if AJ McCarron doesn't play, I'll probably have like a couple shares of Nick Tiano and just pair him with Hakeem Butler, pair him with Marcel Aitman a little bit here and there. Brandon Silvers, we'll have a decent amount of him, maybe a little bit overweight to the field at $8,700. Pairing him up with Michael Bandy, pairing him up a little bit with Deontay Burnett. Those would probably be the biggest two. I'll play a little bit of Travell Harris too, as I typically do pretty much every single week. Luis Perez, not super interested in. I don't think there's any other quarterbacks that I'm really interested in at this point in time. So mainly getting to a little bit of Nunucci, a little bit of Dormany, probably the most of Jordan Tiamo, a little bit of McClendon, Tiano, and Silvers as well. Silvers, so for me personally, probably be Tiamo, then Silvers, then Nunucci, and then McClendon and Tiano somewhere after that. So that's kind of where I'll be looking at, and Dormany in that last group too as well. At running back, I'll be about even with the field, probably on Abram Smith. Just kind of depends on what he comes in at. Same thing with Brian Hill. Max Borghi is just really a contrarian option. Might get two here and there. Same thing with Davion Smith. Jaquez Patrick, I'll probably end up being overweight to the field on at $7,700. Probably going to be my most owned running back. Little bit of Philip Lindsay, no Rod Smith, maybe one share of John Lovett, 2 shares of John Lovett, something like that. As we move down, I'll probably get like 1 share of Bryson Aline, just kind of as a contrarian option. Maybe a share or 2 of Brian Burt and John Hillman as kind of cheap pay down options at running back, but probably going to just stick to playing like one running back in general this week for the most part, honestly. At wide receiver, probably be in line with the field with Ja'Cory Pearson, since it seems like he's healthy at this point in time. Probably about in line, maybe slightly overweight on Hakeem Butler. Jeff Badet, I'm just going to avoid this week. Deontay Burnett, probably slightly overweight to the field. Josh Gordon, about the field or slightly underweight. Darius Shepard, I'll be underweight to. Cody Lattimore really depends on the knee injury, but if he's all right to go, we'll be about slightly overweight to the field, if I'm being honest. Blake Jackson, probably about in line with the field. Lucky Jackson, probably be a little bit underweight to the field just because I'll have a decent amount of Chris Blair this week just in general. Charleston Rambo and Landon Akers will be underweight to. Travell Harris, about even with the field, maybe slightly above the field. Same thing with Geronimo Allison, about even with the field, maybe slightly above. Martavius Bryant, I'm going to be underweight to, especially with his injury this week. Cedric Byrd probably not playing at all this week. Sal Cannell, Austin Proel, Josh Hammond not playing those at all. Jawan Green, I'll be at least even with the field, maybe overweight too. $6,100 price tag was a pretty decent sized jump up. Chris Blair will definitely be overweight to the field on. Eli Rogers probably be about even with the field. Jordan VC probably just not playing this week altogether. Sweeting, it just really depends on who's out for the Vegas Vipers at that wide receiver position, just in general. And let's see where we're at. Justin Smith, probably a share or 2 here and there. Tyler Vaughn's maybe a share of. Brendan Arcanato, if Victor Bolden's out, will be kind of interesting. Probably get a share or 2 at that point in time. Marcel Aitman, I'll be over the field on. Dan Williams, probably even with the field or slightly overweight. Matthew Sexton, I'll be overweight to the field on if he's healthy enough to play. Fred Brown, maybe a share here and there. Him of TJ Vasher. Same thing with Damian Willis. Michael Bandy, I'll be overweight to the field on this week. Let's see if there's anybody else that we really need to talk about. Maybe a share or 2 of Brandon Smith, just depending on their wide receiver situation in general. Let's see. Is there anybody else? Maybe a share of KD Cannon, just in case it happens this week. Victor Bolden, if he's healthy enough to play, I'll get a share or 2 of. But that's pretty much it from the wide receiver position in terms of general theory. And then last but not least, defenses. Houston against the Vegas, I'll have a decent amount of. Pretty much have a lot of DC defenders defense this week. Battlehawks, maybe a share or 2 as a contrarian option here. Renegades not getting 2. San Antonio, maybe a share or 2 here and there. Seattle, contrarian option this week. The Guardians, I'll probably get a decent amount of just because they're a cheap defense this week, and the Vipers not really getting 2 overall. But that's kind of where I'm at in terms of my thought process for week number 9. Obviously, as we get more injury news throughout the week, things can definitely change. If there's any major updates, be sure to check it out on my week number 9 sheet, which is up on Patreon at patreon.com/Coach Craig Sports. I'll try to leave some updates down here on the comments as well, since I am making this video on Thursday. But with that being said, definitely do appreciate everybody that has taken the time out of their day to check this out live. If you're watching on replay, definitely do appreciate it as well. If you guys have any specific questions for XFL DFS, be sure to leave them down in the comments and I'll get back to you as quickly as possible. Also, be sure to note, obviously USFL DFS is starting up this week. I'll be doing another stream for that tomorrow. Be sure to check out that video if you're into both. If you're not into both, maybe check out a little bit of USFL DFS as well. But that's pretty much where I'm at. Definitely interested to hear what you guys have to say for XFL DFS week number 9 as well. So definitely be sure to leave that down in the comments. But with that being said, if you are brand new to my channel, haven't already done so, please consider subscribing. Definitely would appreciate it. Helps to build the community that we're trying to build here at Coach Craig Sports, which is one that's truly for you, the viewers, helping you with your DFS. Right now, it's mainly MLB DFS. We got XFL DFS and USFL DFS going on as well. Got some NFL draft prospect interviews on the channel. Probably going to have a couple more before we get to the NFL draft as well. We'll be doing some NFL draft coverage post NFL draft. So if that's something you're into, definitely be sure to check that out as well. If you are a brand new subscriber or have yet to do so, also be sure to hit that notification bell down below. Let you know every single time that I do go live for a video, post up a pre-recorded video or anything else like that. But with that being said, that's all I have for today. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. And then with that being said, just want to give you guys a special shout out for everybody that did take the time out of their day to watch this video, whether you're watching live or on replay. Definitely means a lot to me. And I hope that each and every one of you has a great rest of your day and hopefully has some pretty good success in XFL DFS for week number 9 as well.